Guys, so there's a little bit of a mess in the track garage right now, but as you can see, this portion of the garage is actually pretty well cleaned up, and there is the difference in just the white paint that I'd been doing, and it's also the same on the walls. So the walls all the way around here have gotten a couple of coats, and it's looking pretty good, honestly, besides the clutter, and that's something I'm going to work on with some shelving and actually getting things a little bit better organized. But anyway, I got the wood stove rolling right now. It's looking okay in here. A couple of guys might come back in a little while and pick up the green car, but between now and then, what I'm going to do is actually start painting this side of the garage. So I'm going to set you guys up on a little bit of a time lapse, and what we're going to do, besides fixing the drywall there that's all gouged out and damaged, I'm going to do a quick landlord special on this and get the walls white again, as it will on the ceiling. But the walls are so dingy and around the window frames and whatnot that this honestly is going to be a nice facelift in here, because even on the other side, I guess you got to take my word for it, it just feels way better being in here than how it was. For those of you that don't know, this garage was lived in prior by a gentleman who is now doing much better, which I'm happy to say. But somebody was living in here for a couple years, and you know, at the end of the day, that's neither here nor there. But that's how gross it got in here for the last decade of being abandoned and having unwelcome company. But I'm gonna get to painting. I got the walls all scrubbed over there, so I'm gonna hopefully try and cover some ground in a short amount of time to get this wall knocked out and then start working on the ceiling. I've got tarps and stuff to cover things up, but that's it. Let's get to a time lapse and get to painting. Okay, so basically I've got the entire ceiling done, the wood stove side of it, and you can kind of see where I had to stop over there. We made a deal on the green car, so the green car is going to go along with the rest of the parts. I did the entire wall over here today, and it's going to be kind of hard to see because it's going to get washed out by the windows, but anyway, let's see if I can give you a better view. This is all painted, looking pretty good. There's a lot of drywall to repair, and more importantly, the electrical is kind of what precipitated me trying to clean up the garage a little bit, because I'm trying to make it more sanitary and useful. But anyway, I'm letting the wood stove die down, and I will probably finish up painting the next time I'm out here, which will be the next segment. So we'll see you guys after we get this car out of here and I can finish painting. Alright, so today's video is once again brought to you by Vevor. This is who supplied the TIG welder that I used in a prior video, and they are today's video sponsor. Inside of this box, I do have a diesel heater. Now, these became pretty popular in the last couple of years, and they're used predominantly in something like campers and trailers, things like that. But for me, it's going to serve a purpose out at the track. I'll actually be able to provide heat in a couple of places. One, in the garage area that we work in, and two, inside of the timing building where we work out of some days when it's cold. You know, it'll be a couple days a year, but this will have a 2-gallon diesel tank in it, and I'm actually really excited to see how much heat this thing puts out. So let's get this thing out of the box and see what we got. One more. All done. Okay, so my first impression is that going through the instructions on how to set this up, you're better off kind of figuring it out on your own. It appears that this is the exhaust side. This would be the inlet pipe side, which there's not an inlet pipe included. It doesn't really show you where to route the exhaust. It seems obvious that it would go through here, but you'd be right next to what seems to be your fuel feed here, which I'd imagine this will get very hot and probably melt that line. So I'm gonna stick this out the side one way or the other, but what you'll find quickly is that the height of the legs and the bending radius of the exhaust pipe will actually put the exhaust pipe right on the ground. So I'm imagining this is designed to go through the floor somewhere, and in a lot of cases that's not really how you're gonna end up doing it. So what I ended up doing is just taking this little chunk of 2x6, cutting off a couple of pieces, and that's gonna space this off a couple more inches and get a little bit more height where I can maybe secure it to something really securely, but it's at least gonna gain me the height to keep that exhaust pipe from touching the floor in any case, or wherever it might end up. So anyways, that's pretty much what I got. I'm gonna put this together, put the muffler on it. I think what's left is pretty much putting fuel in it and seeing what we got. But I'll go outside and fire it up and end up taking it to the track and putting it in the building and seeing what we got. But hopefully it's not too terrible to start up. Like I said, the instructions are leaving a little bit to be desired, but overall, for the money so far, if this thing works, I don't know that I'd be super disappointed. So let's screw this together, put our muffler pipe on, and then continue on with firing the sucker up. Alright, so I'm actually going to use the Vevor TIG welder to make a standoff armature to actually support this exhaust pipe that's right now flopping all over the place. So I'm going to use the tool from the first video to improve the setup in the second video. I'm also going to find or source a longer piece of this exhaust so you can actually route it farther away or through a wall, etc., as would make sense. So I'm going to do a little TIG welding on this, and hopefully this rod to the exhaust pipe after I determine how long to cut it. I'm going to start TIG welding. It's going to be real quick, not much to see here, but I've got the TIG welder set at 70 amps, pretty low. I'm just welding a washer onto this, which will be supported here, and I'll weld the rod to the exhaust pipe so I can always remove the muffler or exhaust extension at any point if needed, but it's going to give me something solid to work with tonight. So I'm going to get to welding and show you guys how this works to work on this machine also. Alright, so my little standoff bracket is all done, and frankly, I had to turn this TIG welder all the way down to like 20-25 amps because this is like thinner than a soda can actually, and I had a heck of a time trying to weld it to this thick rod here without blowing holes in it. So frankly, this turned out really bad, and I was patching it up with a TIG welder, which is really hard when considering how thin wall this stuff is. I mean, you can see how thin the muffler is. I don't know what this is, you know, 18 gauge or 20 gauge or thinner. Anyway, This is not something I should have done. I realize that now. I tried to cut it. I believe this is stainless, and that would have not gone well either. So what I ended up doing is just sealing it up as best as possible, and I think I got it actually sealed up again, which is impressive. I did it as cold as possible, and there's, you know, a little bit of filler material laying on it. But anyway, the TIG welder works great. You got to be really proficient at it to be able to weld something really thick like this to something really thin like that, and as soon as I put any heat onto the pipe, it just blew a hole in it. So anyway, I welded the rod to a washer here and screwed it to the feet, and under now we've got, you know, maybe an inch of clearance or so, but I've got some diesel fuel in this heater. I'm gonna fire it up outside and see what kind of heat this thing starts putting out. I think we're pretty much to that point. Okay, so I got the heater out here and I'm not quite sure what to expect. But what I gotta do, put the fuse in the fuse holder. Let's see what we got. Okay. The instructions are horrible, and I don't know what any of this means, so let's see if I can fire this thing up. Looks like it's commanding heat. Okay, so I had to try and start this thing twice because what's happening right now is it's going through its priming cycle. You can hear it clicking in there, but what I didn't realize is that it wasn't getting fuel all the way down into the combustion chamber until probably the second time, so I'm thinking it's probably going to take off this time. Kind of hard to tell, but anyway, it's actually getting diesel fuel through all this big long line set down into what should be the combustion chamber down there, and actually had to take the cover off to see that it is in fact not getting fuel after the first fire attempt. But looks like it's getting down there now, so hopefully it'll take off pretty quick. It's got a little clicky clacky fuel pump in here, and hopefully that'll be enough for it to actually fire and take off. I don't know what's gonna happen. And there it took off. It is whisper quiet.
Yeah, look it.
Oh, be careful, that's hot and stinky. Let's see the light right there. So the diesel heater is working. There it goes. Pretty cool. Yeah. Quiet too. Be curious to see how hot this exhaust pipe gets, but should just take off and run now. Stinky. Alright, I'm going to put the cover back on this and let it run for a while, and yeah, see what kind of fuel we go through before we start heating something up. Wow, we got a frosty morning out here. Well, afternoon now I guess, but look at how much the pond is actually filled up after a ton of rain that we got. That is really full. That's crazy. So this thing must not take more than a year or two to actually completely fill up, as far as I would guess, you know, especially with a normal heavy rain season like you might get on occasion. But that is not the point of today's video. What we are back out here to do is finish painting and testing out that diesel heater that I got and seeing if it'll actually take the edge off on a day like this. I think it's 31 degrees out right now, and I pretty much only have a little corner left to do over there. Might not look like much in here right now, but at the end of the day, it is way, way cleaner in here. All the walls are white, the ceiling, you know, pretty much everywhere in here. So when you walk through, it actually feels a lot more like a comfortable place to be. Now, as those of you know, I've been using the wood stove behind me here to actually heat the place, and it works okay, but it doesn't put out a ton of heat like maybe you would expect. What I'm gonna do is actually just snake my little heater hose right through the window here, try and seal it up real good with some stuffing type material. It's gonna be a pretty crude install, but I couldn't actually find a exhaust port for the garage door here, which I thought would work perfect because it's like a 3-inch vented hose. And what I'm gonna do is just run it through the window and run it that way today and see how much it heats up in the next few hours. So we'll get the heater hose stuffed in here, get the heater set up outside, and see what we got. Sure, the HVAC guys are just loving this. Yeah, this is pretty terrible. But But, you know, at the end of the day, it's going to work and the sucker ain't going to fall. Then I can actually see the controls and stuff. I would not run one of these in a building. Even on the best day, you're going to have exhaust leaks. So I'm going to get this sucker running, and we'll go inside and see what kind of heat we get. Alright, we're running and heating. So I'm running this on a 12-volt car battery because essentially the idea is that this will be in a trailer, camper, or, you know, any sort of recreational vehicle that may be used for storage, that sort of thing. So what I'm going to actually do is probably pull my truck over and hook up the jumper cables to this for a while and make sure I got a good charge while it's starting to make heat. And right now I've got about 2 gallons in this. I got the next few hours to work here, and pretty much what I'm going to do from here out is just let it run and kind of see what kind of heat it puts out. So you'll see nothing else different off camera. I'm just going to seal up the crack in the window a little bit to see what it does here over the next couple hours for that garage, because the other night when I tested this out, that sucker put out a ton of heat. It was really kind of amazing. So it's off and running. I'm going to see how long it goes before I might have to plug it in or put a jump pack on it. But that's all. Here's as loud as it is. All right, for a jerry rig install, okay, that's painful, but it's gonna work. And honestly, this thing is putting out heat, and the way it feels right here is not dissimilar to the wood stove. You gotta get really close to that thing to feel heat, even with the blower motor on it. And this is actually, you know, it's really throwing out some heat. So over time, when that little burner assembly heats up in there and whatnot, I'll be curious to see what it feels like. But let's let that run in the background, and what I'm going to do is finish painting. So what I got to do is move all this stuff out of here. Got this wall and that section of wall to do yet, and that'll about wrap it up until I can move everything over there. So we got about 2 corners left to paint, and hopefully neither one will take super long, but it'll be kind of lipstick on a pig out here, and it does frankly look better. So looks like the snow's starting to come down. I'm going to get to painting, and I will see you guys in the next time lapse. We got another landlord special completed. This corner of the garage is all done. The heater has worked out okay. It's still chugging away back here. It is nearly scalding coming out of this heater hose. You know, you can put your hand in front of it, but it's hard to hold it. So that is very, very hot. This is probably much better used over in the timing building. I wanted to try it out in the garage, and over the last couple of hours, it seems like I don't even know if it's taken the edge off. There's so many square feet in here that you need a substantial heating source, and that's not really what it's designed to do. So in all fairness to the heater, I think it's working great. You know, maybe 6 to 10 feet out, you can still feel warm air blowing. So I think given enough time, it would definitely warm up the whole garage area. But like I said, it's not what it's intended for. But the garage is getting cleaned up. I gotta get a couple of door frame trim kits. I gotta get 2 of those, and yeah, that's pretty much gonna be it, other than cleaning up this side of the garage too. taking everything off the shelves and everything away from the wall so I can paint back here. As you can see, I left off because everything is pretty much where I was starting to run out of square footage, and I've only got maybe an hour or two left today. Not enough time to paint and move everything, so this will be another day. But overall, I'm pretty impressed with how that little heater works. It's gonna work great in the timing building. If you wanna pick one of those up, check out the link in the description. You can pick one up for yourself. They're really affordable, and that little bit of welding I did to it, I think was a good upgrade to support the exhaust, so it's not just laying on the ground or flopping about, and maybe you'll have a better way to support it than I came up with, but to me it seemed to work pretty good. That's about all I got for this segment of the video. We'll see you guys in the next part. It ended up snowing out. This is actually a day or two away from New Year's Eve, or New Year's here in 2023, and it's finally starting to snow here in the Northland, which is crazy. I believe there's been one winter since the 30s we've had no snow this time of year. So this is highly abnormal, and this time last year I was plowing out here with that F350 that I had. So anyway, that's it for today's segment. I'm gonna head back to the shop and we'll wrap up today's video. I would like to once again thank Vevor for sponsoring today's video by sending this diesel heater, and frankly, I think you do pay for what you get. This thing does put out a ton of heat, and in my opinion, it would be really well suited for any sort of car, trailer, or camper, or fish house. Anything that's mobile that you don't have a really powerful source of heat in that has a very low amount of square footage. I mean, even in the shop here, I've got a full-size home furnace in here, what would be a home furnace, and that's what heats the shop, and it's its primary heat source. So that, the amount of BTUs that puts out, and this will be very different. Click the link in the description. You can get all the specs on this to see what this thing actually puts out, fuel consumption, how many amp hours this thing draws under operation. But the idea being is that I was going to have a heat source and have off-grid power out at the track via this battery bank and solar. So on a cool fall day out in the timing building, I have all the infrastructure to have heat and AC and DC power to last the entire event day. So that's kind of the idea behind why I picked this out of all the items, is this would be very useful to me. For the money to go out and buy one, I really don't think you go wrong. I could use a little bit of tweaking and customization to fit your application really well, but like I say, you got a race car trailer or ice racing setup or whatever, these things would be perfect for one of those. As long as you are not afraid to blow 3 or 4 inch hole, whatever it may be, where you can actually route that into and maybe have that thing permanently installed somewhere outside of your trailer in a cubby or some such thing. But anyways, once again, there's a link in the description with this. If you guys want to pick one up, you can find out info and pricing there. Thank you guys for watching today's video. We got some more content coming on the CTA and the C5 Corvette, but until those future videos, we'll see you guys in the next one.